Welcome back to Bear Down Abroad with me, Ant. As you can see, it should be a game we should play. Where is Ant right now? I won't tell you where I am, in a secret location. Welcome back to the Bear Down Report, and we have got some show for you today. It's episode number 2 of what we're looking to do. We're bringing on some of the big guns. We're bringing Aldo from the Bear Down Network. So, all you have to do, get involved, like, follow, and always remember, bear down, baby. Let's get the show going, Tony.
Guys, welcome back. We are back for episode 2, and we're joined by a guy I'd like to call the Podfather. Aldo Gandia from the Barroom Network has joined us on today's show. Aldo, how you doing, man? I'm so used to watching all of your shows and typing everything in there in the comments and getting some comments up on the screen. It's great to have you on. How are things?
Things are great. I'm just kicking myself right now because I wish I would have bought some Guinness. I'd be sipping on a Guinness right now talking to you guys. I really screwed that one up. But outside of that, things are great. And thanks for having me on. I saw last week's episode with Greg. Great start to the season and to the new enterprise here. So congratulations to both of you guys.
Cheers, Aldo, my man. It's brilliant getting on. First and foremost, let's get it. Oh, yeah, you're doing it, and I don't have a beer myself. It's the first week I don't. I tried to stay off it this day.
You're not drinking, Ant, for God's sake.
I know. Can you believe it? Ant doing this sober? My God, anything could happen. Aldo, in all seriousness, man, we were speaking just before we started the show, and you were saying about the buzz and excitement that's flying around Chicago about this football team. What's your take? What's your take on that buzz and excitement? Is it really hitting fever pitch in Chicago?
Yeah, I've over the last, I would say 5-6 weeks and, just going out to restaurants and bars and talking to family and friends, I can really feel it generating. And I think that by the time game 1 rolls along, this town is going to be crazy. This is also a Cubs town, whether you like the Cubs or not. You can't deny the fact that they have a very passionate and loyal following. If they fall out of the playoff race, then no one's going to be paying attention to any baseball, north side or south side baseball. It's going to be all Chicago Bears to see what Ben Johnson, Caleb, and this Dennis Allen defense are going to produce for us. So yeah, it's starting to gel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's dive right into that point then. We're talking about Ben Johnson. We're talking about Dennis Allen. We're talking about the new look Chicago Bears. We're talking preseason. And I said to Ant last night when we were watching the game, I was like, usually I don't really get into these preseason games, but this is actually a fun one to watch. Mm-hmm. So what were your sort of general impressions of how the Bears looked? Obviously we didn't see a lot of the guys out there, but from what you did see, did you get a sort of different feel this time around to like previous preseason games?
Yeah, well, the offense went out and didn't play well in the first quarter, and so I'm, shaking my head and saying, "Oh no, why can't we just score on an 80-yard touchdown play on the first snap of the game?" Instead, the rookie running back whiffs on a block. And Tyson Bagent throws errantly. I think he actually ran into a sack in that first play. And then the defense allows the Dolphins offense all the way to get to the goal line, but they stopped them. And so all of a sudden things started to feel different and change. And so I'm with you, man. I was psyched. I was happy. Ant and I were talking before the show. It's just great to have football back and to see the uniforms on the field. They've got the new navy blue end zones. So that's a new look. The patch that you've got on the background there dedicated to Virginia, outstanding. So, while things started off a little, oh my gosh, no, not again, things quickly changed, and I was really proud with the performance of the second and third stringers who were out there.
Yeah, I think on that, the one that stood out to everybody at the start of that first quarter into the second quarter was Noah Sewell. And I think his impact was all over the place. I did see something interesting though on Twitter about that his coverage issue. There was a percentages down on coverage, which is something he obviously would have to work on.
Mhm.
But what's your take on the likes of those guys who are battling for 53 and let's use Noah Sewell as a starter point. We're into a second year. It's really pressurized that he's going to kind of push on. What was your take on and how he performed either in camp but also now in that first preseason game?
Sure. I like Noah a lot. I think it's going to be a challenge for him, though, to make the 53 because there is a lot of depth and competition on this squad. But Noah has that quickness, and he's got excellent sideline speed. You know, he's going to make this team primarily based on his special teams play, like a lot of other guys who are battling for positions are. But this is what we all want. We want to see good players be placed on waivers, and we may lose some of them, but that's okay. That says that Ryan Poles has done a good job at developing the roster, putting together good players. They've been well coached during the preseason, and that's another thing that excites me tremendously about what's going on with the Chicago Bears. Out of all of my years following the Bears, and it's been a lot of years, this appears to be potentially be one of the best coached teams. And it's not just because of the, genius of Ben Johnson, but it's the coordinators, it's the position coaches, and guys like Noah Sewell and some of the other players battling for positions are really going to benefit from them. But of course, the number one story is going to be, are the starters going to benefit? Caleb and company. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue, Aldo, to my next question, because I know personally I was banging the table to have the starters playing a little bit in week one. Now, I get why it didn't happen. I get the advantage of, the walkthroughs and really going at it and practice and all that kind of thing. But for me, at this early stage, brand new system, a lot of new personnel, any extra live reps for me are hugely important. Been a bit of a contentious subject for Bears fans. And I know in previous years when Matt Nagy, for instance, didn't play any starters, there was a lot of kind of debate and so forth regarding that. What were your general thoughts on that situation? Do you think that we should just trust in Ben and hope that works out and we get to week one and it's all good? Or was that a missed opportunity for you?
Well, I've learned never to blindly trust coaches and general managers ever again as a sports fan. But there is context here that I think anyone who is criticizing the decision not to start the starters, there is context here. This has been a really physical camp. And on Friday, I think all of us diehard Bears fans know that the Bears kicked the crap out of the Miami Dolphins in the scrimmage 2 days before the game. And so that was the first string defense and offense that was doing most of that work. And so it just makes sense to rest those guys. You don't want them dinged up. You don't want, the guys that get injured first and foremost are the guys who have been overworked. And so I think it was a smart decision. Matt Nagy, on the other hand, he had country club type practices. I remember going out there and watching them play at Bourbonnais, and it was Matt Nagy, having fun throwing the ball. He was just a failed quarterback who was trying to live vicariously through the quarterbacks he coached with the Chicago Bears. He really wasn't the head coach in terms of scheming and preparing his team for battle. He just didn't have that quality as a rookie head coach. So I am fine with the fact that the starters didn't play, but definitely this Friday when they scrimmage against the Buffalo Bills, I think that they've got to rest most of the starters to make sure that those starters can go at least a quarter and maybe even a half, because usually that last preseason game, the starters don't get any or very little playing time.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to that in a minute. The one thing I will say is we're nearly 10 minutes into the show and we haven't at all talked about Austin Booker, which is incredible to me. Like, I know everyone's saying, well, he was like this last year, but he looks to have bulked up. The way he destroyed the left tackle on that strip sack, I mean, now, like, bitch slapped him, basically.
Yes.
And like that whole his go energy, we are looking for a edge, and we're worried about edge. I also want to say I thought Dominic Robinson was very good as well, but I think also Austin Booker's performance was against their second string offense,
Right.
but still seemed to make a lot of plays that stood out as being a really, really, really good player. Has he stabilized himself, or have you seen a camp or heard from people who go to camp that Austin Booker that this was coming, or is this a bit of a oh Jesus, didn't see this coming at all?
He's played well in camp, but yeah, I think the 3 sacks was a surprise to most Chicago Bears fans. And go back to, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of this past week, Dennis Allen was asked about Austin Booker, and he said that he has flashed, he looks fast, he looks quick, and so forth. But he did talk about he still has to, learn certain parts of the defense. He still has to execute on a more consistent level. And then, he said he's a little undersized. He doesn't have the girth and body type and so forth. And I think that Austin Booker took that as a challenge. There's no doubt in my mind that he heard that and he was fired up to come in and line up against anybody the Dolphins did and give that kind of effort. Now, what we need to see as Bears fans is, can he replicate, at least to a high degree, that against starters in the National Football League? So hopefully he does become a specialty rusher in this league, particularly line him up against slow-footed offensive tackles so that he can do what he did to Jermaine Ifedi, a long-time journeyman guy. He's been with the league for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and he made him look silly. And the other, I'm forgetting the other left tackle's name, who he just annihilated, as you said, Ed, to get that strip sack. Yeah, I want to see that against the Lions starting left tackle, the Packers starting left tackle, and so forth. That's the true test, of course.
Yeah, I think that the big thing with Booker is I know we seen, for instance, last season in the preseason, he looked very good then as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't really transpire into the regular season. I wonder, though, and I'll ask you the question, we seen last night the sheer passion and like laser focus of the coaches on the sideline. I mean, you've seen the flex and you've seen the celebrating, you've seen even just the look on Ben Johnson's face just watching the game. It's pure intensity. I wonder what is the impact going to be of guys like Ben Johnson as a head coach and guys like Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator, particularly on those defensive guys, because I seen an intensity even in preseason that you don't always see, and especially for guys that didn't perform great last year. Austin Booker, for instance, even Tremaine Edmonds didn't have a great season last year. Guys like that. Can you see the impact of this new coaching scheme in itself and the guys behind it really pushing the performance levels?
Yeah, I've come to shift my line of thinking on coaching styles over the years. And that, when I was younger, I was a big fan of the Tom Landry, Bill Walsh style of coaching. These guys were cerebral guys who their effectiveness was born out of the fact that they were thinking about innovative ways to beat their opponents. But I want now somebody who is innovative and is smart as my coach, but I also want a coach who is going to fire you up. And I think this staff is loaded with those types of people, starting with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, you saw him flexing. You just mentioned that, he gets fired up. He's talking trash about Matt LaFleur, and he wants to run up the score again. That's what I want. Football is unlike any other sport in the world. Well, I shouldn't say that because I'm not super familiar with rugby and some of the other games, but in America, I really believe that today's day and age football players really, really thrive on coaches, their leaders, firing them up and showing that they care as much as the player cares. And so I really love that, Tony. And I think the Bears are loaded with coaches like that.
Yeah, I love our coaching staff. I love Johnson's reaction to Sewell's the fourth down block. I loved the wide receiver coach losing his mind down the sideline. I love Eric Bieniemy just looks like he wants to kill everybody, whether it's the crowd, it doesn't matter. He just looks like he wants to kill everybody. Also looks like Lovey as well with the beard.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh, yeah.
But I just think for me, the game was summed up for me, or the coach's attitude towards that game was summed up to me with the last 30-second play where we went all out blitz, where Alan
Mhm.
just went and sent the house and was like, we are going to shut these down now. And it was the third stringers that executed that play, but it was very much a Dennis Allen going, no.
Yeah.
Everyone that I've seen was like, well, if that was shit Matt, which that's what I'm calling him now, that would have been we'd have dropped everybody back and we'd have just tried to stop a long play to kill us, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
for me, I'm obsessed this year with seeing how that development goes, and also the pressure they're putting on players. So I'd like you to get your opinion on, as a player, or as you think as a player, this is very much a scenario where you either accept this and go with it, or you're out of Chicago pretty quickly. Is that a fair attitude to have?
Yeah, I think it's a fair attitude to have, and I think that's the attitude that the coaching staff has. You know, all of these coaches came to the Chicago Bears organization knowing what happened last year, and that it was the players lost trust in their coaching staff, and there was a mutiny, so to speak, and the locker room culture was suffering as a result of the lack of leadership from the coaching staff last season and the changes in the coaching staff. I don't want to take swipes at Thomas Brown because, you know, I like him, but he was put in a terrible position, you know, promoted to offensive coordinator, and then a week or two later promoted to head coach. And by that time, the team was totally tuned out. And so the only way to deal with that when you're dealing with alpha males is to show them that you got, excuse me for putting it this way, but you got big balls. And this coaching staff is loaded with coaches who are big bald coaches. And so the players have responded very favorably to that. And I think that is going to buy some patience with Chicago Bears fans. It's going to buy some patience with players if they don't see things turn around very quickly. It's because it's just a winning formula. This roster now is so much better than it was, and the coaching staff dealing with this roster is so much better than we've had. Good things are ahead, guys.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think it's that sort of, and we talked about it with Greg last week, it's that accountability aspect of things that previous head coaches have spoken about accountability, but it's never actually been enacted. But it definitely feels like there's pressure on these guys. Like, I don't care if you're a number one overall pick quarterback and you earn X amount of money a year. You're gonna do what I fucking tell you to do, or you're not going to play. Do you know what I mean? And I love that because that's the way it should be. So it'll be really interesting to see how that develops over the year. I think there's going to be teething issues at the start of the season. It's going to take a few weeks to get into things, for that, no doubt at all. But one really interesting battle, if you like, that I wanted to ask you about was that left tackle spot. I think, it's one that's on everybody's mind just now. We've spoken to a few different people, got different opinions on that. So I wanted to get yours. Looking at the sort of snap count from last night. So we've got Ozzy Trapilo, 37 snaps, gave up 0 sacks, 1 pressure. Braxton, 24 snaps, gave up 1 sack and 2 pressures. Braxton was pretty poor, in my opinion. Ozzy wasn't great either. Do you know what I mean? So there wasn't a huge kind of discrepancy there. But what are your kind of feelings in terms of what you've seen of those guys in the game last night, or even at practice, or what you're hearing? Are you feeling like, because my feeling is like it's Ozzy's job to lose.
Yeah.
And for me, it makes sense to have Ozzy as your guy because he's rookie, left tackle. You've got your QB in a rookie contract as well. It does wonders for the rest of your roster. But what are your thoughts on that left tackle spot?
Yeah, I'm with you, Tony. I think that, Ozzy, if Ozzy wins that spot, it is the best thing for the Chicago Bears because then you can move on from Braxton Jones either this season via trade or at the end of the season, let him try to get a nice lucrative contract for himself and the Bears get a decent comp pick for. So that is the best scenario. Now, Brad Biggs, a respected Bears beat reporter for the Chicago Tribune here, wrote this morning that he thinks it's Braxton Jones's job to lose simply because of his experience. But I wonder if Brad feels that way after watching the All-22 today, because Braxton had some really serious mistakes, and it was, he was beat inside on a pass rush. He allowed a sack. On another play, he was supposed to get to the second level and issue a block, and he was pushed aside. I'm not quite sure if it was a linebacker or a defensive back, but it was not a great showing for Braxton Jones. And then there was a quote from Braxton himself after the game, and he just was so happy that he was back out there after having a serious ankle injury, and just felt very thankful for being back out there. You know what? I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is I need to play better. I know I can play better. He's still not 100% confident. He's still not 100% confident that his ankle is going to keep him playing, help him play better than he did a year ago. And it's too bad, because he's right when he self-evaluated himself at a press conference last week, when he said towards the end of last year, before that ankle injury, he was getting better, because he started off 2024 poorly. He was coming off an early season injury, but he started to progress. And I was hoping that Braxton Jones would be, that 10-year left tackle. But no, I think Ozzie, and I hope that Karan Amagaji gets back into practice. I know a couple of people in the chat I saw out of my peripheral vision are all for the Canadian Eagle. I forget his name, Theo Benedict. Is it? I don't know. I don't know if he's capable of playing left tackle. But right now, Tony, I hope that it is Oz's job to lose. I really do.
Yeah, folks, everyone over on Twitter, make sure you come on over, because I know there's quite a few people watching the show. Come over and get involved on the tube.
Yes.
As our sensational mate, Bellissimo, my good man. Great and honor to have you on here.
Yeah.
As Bellissimo says, make sure you hit the sub and hit the like button as well. Get yourself involved. We're just getting back into the show. We're getting back ourselves going. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to our Twitter, whatever it's called, X. I have no idea, whatever Elon calls it.
Whatever it is.
That one.
Whatever what that thing, the big X thing. Get involved and make sure you get your questions into Aldo. Aldo, there is a couple of negatives that came out of it as well. My first one, which is going to be one of the weirdest things I've ever said, because I don't usually talk a lot about it, I thought our special teams was awful.
Yeah.
I thought our kick return, that's a real worry, because I know it's only preseason one, but if that continues, that we started against the Dolphins nearly every single time at halfway. So they were taking over at between 40 and the 50-yard line. And also then for a very, very high pick, to have Taylor, he didn't perform well. He didn't kick the ball well. He was isolating some people, and he was given their chances there. Now I'm a big Tory Taylor fan, but he's not helping me with performances like that, because people like Tony will turn around and go, "Why do we waste a pick on a guy like that that's not performing that way?" Oh, here we go. See, look, he started them off.
It was a wasted bet.
It's a preseason match. It's a preseason game.
Come on, lads.
It's a preseason game. Aldo, what's your take on the special teams?
Well, yeah, it was clearly a disappointing performance yesterday. I still have enough faith in Richard Hightower that he's going to turn this around. There have been, in the 2024 season, there were a couple of bad special teams games. I think those were obvious to point out. And you're absolutely right. When your fourth round draft pick doesn't play to expectations, doesn't play the way he was advertised. I mean, they would chant his name at Iowa. They would hope that, that fourth down would be their first down, just because they wanted to see the guy boom an 80-yard pick. But now I will say this: when I saw him in camp last week, he looked like a first round caliber pick. Now I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but he looked like the Taylor that we all want to look, but right now he has to bring that every game, and there's no excuse for punting the way that he did. And these special teams players, I wonder if there wasn't a little stage fright here, because these guys are definitely fighting for jobs. That's their big opportunity. But again, it just shouldn't happen. I've been in situations before where, I'm on the Bear Down show and I'm getting a little nervous, but I got to bring it, man. And hopefully I am. But you got to bring it all the time. So I'm a little bit concerned, but I also have confidence that Hightower and his troops will come through for us.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you don't want to get. We talked about it during training camp and practices, and don't get too high, don't get too low, all that kind of stuff. And I think there's part of that with this as well, because as you say, there are multiple different facets that go into the game and the outcome and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's a cutthroat business. You've got a couple of weeks of games to really prove that you belong there. And if you don't take it, you don't. I mean, that is it. Like, you're gone. So it is cutthroat. Talking about special teams though, and guys that are sort of playing for roles in the team, I was hugely impressed by Ja'Day Walker yesterday. I was also impressed by Maurice Alexander. I keep forgetting his first name. Maurice Alexander. I thought they both played very, very well in terms of the wide receiver options. And especially it's going to be interesting to see how the Bears round out their roster in terms of the number of wide receivers they keep, etc. But it's going to be crucial for these guys to play on special teams. But in terms of like performances like that, especially for Walker, who from all I've heard has had an excellent sort of training camp. Everyone's talking about what he's producing, etc. Do you see those sort of guys making their way onto the team? And how many wide receivers do you think the Bears will keep? I mean, I can't even remember how many they kept last year. It was probably about 6 or something like that.
I think it was 6. Yeah,
6. But then again, with Ben Johnson, it's almost like you need to try and trick yourself and think outside the box. And it's like, well, what's he actually going to do? So. But what were your sort of thoughts on some of those guys, some of those kind of undrafted rookies or whatever that came out and played last night, whether it be wide receivers or running backs, which I love to talk about as well. So I'd like to get your thoughts on both those positions.
Well, I was super impressed with Walker, and he caught my eye last week when I saw him in camp. And, he's got the traits. Greg Gabriel always talks about, guys have to have the traits in order to make it, to be evaluated and to get invitations to camp. Walker is a millimeter short of 6'3". He ran a 4.3 at his pro day. So he's got speed, he's got length, and Case Keenum talked highly about him, saying that he's in camp, that they've established a nice connection. And so I'm going to be, when I get out to camp again this week, I'm going to be totally focused. Yeah, but at least I'm with you. Corner and wide receivers impressed. I'm going to be totally focused on him. And then one name that you did not mention who has had a good camp, I don't think he's going to make the team, but he probably is a candidate for the practice squad, is J.P. Richardson. He's a slower wide receiver. He ran, I think, a 4.53, but he's the kind of guy who gets open and gets yards after the catch. And so if the Bears get the injury bug at the wide receiver position, he could be a good guy to bring up out of practice squad during the course of the season. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen. But Ian Wheeler, and we all know and love Ian Wheeler from Hard Knocks. He's a guy, I think he is battling Travis Homer for a spot, and he's got to perform on special teams at a high level, because Homer is an excellent special teamer, but Wheeler could add a lot of value to this team if he can compete with Homer at the special teams position. And then with his blazing speed and his excellent balance, Wheeler could add some really excellent positive yards at the running back position. At the cornerback position, I got to tell you, Terrell Scott, he's in his third year now, I want to say, at the corner position. This might be the season where we finally see him flourish. His big problem, of course, is that he gets dinged up often, but the guy's got skills. And one of the things that we could spend an entire hour talking about these secondary, third string type guys who have promise, and the Bears are loaded with them. They really, really are.
Yeah, Lee here is one of the questions for you, Aldo. Just one of the chat. So, case edged out Bajan slightly. Does Aldo think that this could be one of the deepest QB rooms in the league?
Oh, that's a great question. I have to really dig into some of the other rosters. I would say that right now, I would not venture that, only because the jury is still out on Caleb. I believe Caleb is going to be an outstanding quarterback, but he still has to prove it. There's no doubt about it. Bagent could be a starting quarterback in the National Football League, but he still has to prove it. And Case Keenum is Case Keenum. How many years has he played? 12, 13, 14 years? We know what his ceiling is, and that's a backup quarterback, really smart guy, really great guy to have in the quarterback room, because he's going to help these other guys in preparing for games and preparing for practice and being professionals. That's the value Case Keenum brings in first and foremost. But the two main guys, Caleb Williams and Tyson Bagent, still have a lot to prove. And I know people are going to throw tomatoes at me when I say that, but it is true. We have to see it to truly, truly, truly believe it.
Yeah, sorry, Tony. Sorry, just jumping in before you run. I do get what you're saying, Allo. I really do, and I think personally, based on what I saw last night and what I've heard at the camp, it's a closer one between Tyson and Case Keenum, in my opinion. I think Tyson is it's not fully my cup of tea yet, if I'm being completely honest. We obviously don't want that to happen, Caleb, but I would almost prefer Case Keenum at the moment. Hopefully Tyson goes and proves me wrong next week and the week after. Do you know what I want to bring up before I jump into Tony? Because I will forget this. And he's now okay, Aldo, you might remember from my olden days, I had some weird fascination with Daz Newsome. Right? So a massively weird fascination with the human being. I kept on trying to get him on the show. He never came on. He's dead to me now. Actually, don't know where he is. But my new version of Daz, and I apologize to the guy in advance because this probably means he gets cut, is Kyle Monungai.
Yeah.
And since Kyle Monungai was drafted, he's just the underdog story that I love. I couldn't understand why he got to the 7th round based on his tape. And I can't understand why he got to the 7th round based on what I saw yesterday, excepting that he was blown up in one of the first plays. He's a rookie running back. He was blown up in one of the first plays, costing a sack. I accept that. That's part of being a rookie, and you learn that. But everything else he did seemed to be really, 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 really good. What's your take on Kyle Monungai, or the new Daz Newsome, as I'm now going to call it?
Well, with Kyle, that first play was disappointing because the defender just kind of pushed him out of the way very easily and put pressure on Bagent. But from what I saw at camp and from what I've heard from people who go to camp frequently is that hasn't been a problem for him in camp, that he has been pass blocking very good. So I think that was just one of those things. And so he's going to be bouncing back, and I think not look as bad in pass blocking when he's protecting the quarterback. Now, as a runner, love him. The reason he lasted until the 7th round was this is one of the deepest running back classes in recent memory at that running back position. There were over 30 running backs drafted, and there were a number of really good names that we thought were going to be drafted who were undrafted free agents. So that's why. And yeah, would I like to have Travion Henderson on the team over Kyle Monungai? Yeah, I have to admit yes, but I'm hopeful that Kyle Monungai could continue his improvement and really surprise people and have an outstanding season, maybe rush anywhere between 400 and 700 yards this season.
Yeah. And just on the running backs, the Chicago Bears, in case you aren't aware, folks, Chicago Bears have signed running back Britton Brown, 27-year-old running back, drafted by the Raiders 2-3 seasons ago. Hasn't really done much, to be fair. But, interested to see why they're bringing him in. the Roshan Johnson injury and all that kind of thing. I think it's probably just going to be a camp body, to be honest with you, and he'll probably go in a couple of weeks, but we'll see how that goes. I was hugely impressed by the running backs, Kyle Mononga, Ian Wheeler, Dion Hankins as well. Had a good outing. So it's really encouraging to see that happen. And we know how important that the running back position can be as an outlet for a quarterback who is inexperienced, who is in a new system, in terms of having, that pressure release valve there. And I know Yardbox 77 here is tired about talking about the QB2 situation. But it is a talking point, and I have to disagree with you, because I always have to disagree with you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on a show together. I think the Tyson Bagent will be grand in the long term. I think Case Keenum is a player coach. Do you know what I mean? He's in there. He's in the room. He's imparting wisdom. And he'll play if required, but he's going to be quarterback 3 for definite. He's obviously went out there, played very well last night. But then again, you have to remember, by that point, he was playing against the 3s and the 4s and all that kind of stuff. So everything's got a context. One question I did want to ask, Aldo, just on the Caleb situation, and a couple of people have talked about, why didn't he play? And we can go with the answer that we talked about earlier on, in that, well, we wanted to have a situation where we were in camp, we gave him all this stuff, we threw at him, and we didn't want to then do it again in the preseason game for the sake of a few snaps. There are another camp that says, well, actually, Ben Johnson wanted to just kind of shield Caleb Williams from that first game. So because the spotlight's there, and even though it's only going to be like a few snaps that you play, whatever, maybe he wants to just give him an extra week of getting everything really crammed into his head. Do you think there's any sort of credence in that, or do you think people are just trying to analyze stuff for the sake of it and just making stuff up? What are your thoughts?
Tony, I think you nailed it there. I think that besides the fact that he played on Friday, and so they didn't want him facing real life bullets 2 days later after a tough practice. Now, of course, there was no the quarterbacks couldn't be hit on Friday, but still, they were playing at a highly intense level. You could have twisted an ankle or whatever on that Friday practice. Fortunately, he didn't. But to get back to your point, I think that Ben didn't want to unveil his project until he felt a little better about that. Evidence of that is the fact that before the game against the Miami Dolphins, Caleb Williams, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back all ran over 70 snaps. Just Caleb and those players, and a lot of it was one-on-one situations, and it was the quarterback coach wasn't there, the offensive coordinator wasn't there, or they may have been there, but it was just Ben talking to Caleb, and this is according to Brad Biggs reporting, or Ben going to the 2 players who were involved in the play, the quarterback and the receiver, and discussing, where the cut should be, the mechanics of the play. And I think that was the biggest clue to what is going on right now with Caleb Williams. Ben is not 100% happy with the execution of the dozens and dozens and dozens of plays that Caleb has had to study and perform and practice. Yes, he's done well in some plays, but not so well in some others. And so he took that opportunity before the game to work with his quarterback for over 70 snaps and help him learn some of the plays and see the execution of those plays. And hopefully now with this next practice, Caleb will take that over and his execution will go to the next level. I'm going to, as a Bears fan, I'm going to offer a prediction here. This week, you are going to hear things like, wow, it's like he's turned the switch on. Caleb turned the switch on. All of a sudden, the execution is much more consistent. All of a sudden, he looks sharper. All of a sudden, I really do believe that could happen this week at practice, and it's going to be a result of how Coach Ben Johnson has handled this situation.
Oh my God, it almost feels like our players are getting coached.
Imagine that.
Makes a change.
I'm in shock. Like it's almost like that we have a guy in charge or people in charge that actually want to make our players better. It blows my mind
Yeah,
that
they have
Chicago
a
Bears
plan
have
and they're executing on the plan. Yeah.
exactly, Lee. Fuck me, coaching. Totally agree with you. Like it would be sad if it wasn't funny.
I know. Yeah.
I love what I'm hearing from people like you who go to camp, and I love what I'm hearing from some really, really cool reporters and what we're seeing, because we spoke about accountability, we've spoken about coaching, we've spoken about importance and you giving your opportunity. But what I really loved about the game yesterday and everything I'm seeing so far is there's a real tempo and there's a real passion and there's a real
Mhm.
accountability, but accountability together. And it's not like one guy saying, well, it's his fault or her fault. You're not seeing guys stropping on the sideline. I think it was mentioned, it was really cool to watch the guys who weren't suited up yesterday getting hyped up on some big plays, whether it was defensive stopping or whether it was a touchdown to Walker in the corner or whatever it was. It's something that seems to be missing, and in a really tough NFC North. And we're gonna leave you for the last 5 minutes now, Aldo, on this one.
Okay.
On a really tough NFC North that we're in, where do you think we sit right now as we're exactly 4 weeks before we play the Vikings? What's your thoughts on a Bears season right now?
Well, I can't help myself. I got the rose-colored glasses, and I've got all these positive expectations, really hopeful about things. But my honest evaluation of the Detroit Lions is that they could possibly lose 3, 4, 5 games out of their first 8. I think that it's quite possible they're going to get off to a slow start. Yeah, you can't tell anything about the Hall of Fame game and so forth. But when you lose 2 of the best coordinators in football, and I've never had a lot of faith in Dan Campbell as a true coach. Yes, he's a motivator of men. Yes, I love his passion. Yes, this and that. But in terms of him calling plays or having a bigger role in designing the offense, I'm not too confident about that. And I think that this team has had 2 great opportunities to make it to the Super Bowl, and they have screwed up. And now there's these massive changes with the coaching staff. I think we could see the Lions get off to a really, really slow start, and that's important. Then the Green Bay Packers, I am just not impressed with that team. I'm not impressed with Jordan Love. I think he has been perhaps one of the luckiest guys, and now they're getting hit by injuries on the offensive line and the defensive backfield, which was never a strength of theirs to begin with. And then with the Minnesota Vikings, I know J.J. McCarthy had an excellent debut on Sunday or Saturday, but I still am finding it hard to believe that he is going to adjust like a Jaden Daniels in his first full season as a quarterback, because he came out of Michigan, and what was it? There were games where he was asked to throw 9, 10 times. And everybody talks about, well, he comes from a pro offense at Michigan. No, that's not a pro offense when you're throwing 9, 10 times. I'm sorry. Yes, the formations are pro, and there's a lot of other things that you could say are pro, but he wasn't throwing the ball. And when he gets lined up against the Chicago Bears defense that disguises looks, that has blitz packages that are exotic looking, and everything that Dennis Allen is building from a pass defense standpoint on Monday night, first week of the season, I think J.J. McCarthy is going to have a lot of trouble against the Chicago Bears. So I'm not going to say they're going to be in first place, but I do believe the Chicago Bears can be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. And I think especially from that whole defensive point of view, I heard someone during the broadcast yesterday mention something about how Dennis Allen's pushing these guys to be, top, to kind of replicate the Bears playoff defenses of the last 20 years sort of thing, and how anytime the Bears made the playoffs, the defense is always like a top 5 defense. And I just think the motivation there and the way that these guys are being pushed is going to make a hell of a difference when it comes to game day. And that mentality can sometimes make up for an ability thing, so and that's not to say they don't have that, but I think having that extra edge there is huge. I've got one more question for you from Dean in the chat, Aldo, and then we'll let you go, because I know you've been talking Bears all day. And I know you love to talk it all day, but even still,
this has been great. I appreciate the opportunity to be on with you guys. So, yeah, what's Dean got?
So, Dean has Aldo heard any new updates on Arlington Heights? How much politics will be involved in this decision?
Well, that's the big hurdle right now. In the state of Illinois, there's a General Assembly meeting happening next month. It's called the Fall General Assembly meeting, and that's where proposals are taken to a vote. And unfortunately, in the spring, this mega bill that will help control taxes for the Chicago Bears, because that's their biggest concern right now, it was not brought up to a vote in spring, which at that point it might have been a lot easier to pass because there isn't as many votes needed to pass a bill. Now in the fall, you need more votes. That's why they call it the veto session. And so I have a bad feeling that this thing is not going to pass in the fall, and that the Bears then will have to kind of punt until next spring, where they'll have a better chance to get this bill passed so that they can secure what they know what the taxes are going to be, or at least have the right to negotiate with Arlington Heights and the school board districts and so forth, and have better control over what their tax picture could look like, as opposed to leaving it to the state, which will be much harder to negotiate. And this, frankly, is a strike against Kevin Warren. Kevin Warren lost months of time because of his negotiations with the city of Chicago. People in Chicago knew that this was not going to happen. George Lucas, the famous filmmaker, wanted to build his museum on the lakefront of Chicago, and there were too many organizations, the Friends of the Park organization, this organization, that they shot it down. And there's just no way that the Bears were going to come in and convince these organizations that they can build a stadium and it would still be friendly towards the parks and the trees and the birds and all that stuff. It just wasn't going to happen. And he should have known better, but perhaps because he's from out of town, or I don't know what, he lost all that time that should have been spent wooing politicians in convincing them that the building of the stadium and help from the state would benefit communities all around the Chicago area. And he tried, and George McCaskey called a press conference on Friday, and that's when they started doing the wooing, at least publicly. And this just was a sign to me that he dropped the ball. I will be shocked if this bill passes in the fall assembly meeting, and if it does, then he's got better powers of persuasion than I'm giving him credit for. I think this stadium is going to, at least shovels in the ground, is going to be delayed to 2026.
Can I just say one thing quickly? Sorry, Anne, just before you go. I love that we got a Star Wars reference on the show as well. That was excellent. I think what we need to call this one is Chicago Bears Stadium Wars: A New Hope. And it might work. It might work.
Jesus Christ, what has the show turned into? Oh my God. Oh my God. I love it. I got you, Tony. I got you. Well, Aldo, it's been absolute pleasure having you on. You are one of my favorite follows on Twitter. You're one of my favorite guys on all the shows you do. Where can we get all of you? Where can we watch it?
Well, follow the account at Barroom Network if you're on X. You can find us also on Facebook, Barroom Network. It's basically a channel for us to get our Lake Horse with McCaskey. Facebook is another channel, just like YouTube is, for our material. This season, we're going to have a lot of fun doing video shorts. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of shorts coming up over the next few weeks, over the next few months. And our schedule this year is going to be on Tuesday. It'll be Buffon 55. If you know John Buffon, his passion for the Chicago Bears is legendary because his uncle played 15 seasons with the Chicago Bears, and Alyssa and Danny Shimon are coming back to co-host that show with him on Wednesdays. It's our Potty Mouth, a Bear There So show, where we just have fun talking Bears, talking music, talking movies, and talking about other things that not suitable for children. And then on Friday, a show that I'm very proud of. I've been helping Tim and Jeff Willis with their new show called the Willis Twin Towers Show, and they get us ready for the upcoming game. And then on Sunday mornings, the Barfly Tailgate Show, it gets you ready for the game. Lori Lightfoot strikes back. Bellissimo is on a roll. I hope he's on your list of upcoming guests for the show.
Oh, he is. 100%. He is, and that you've given exclusive out there. Bellissimo and me are chatting via X. Poor man has never met me, lucky man. But yeah, we are getting Bellissimo on the show.
Love it.
Even
love
if the kidnapping.
I love it. His knowledge of the game is second to none, and always brings it anytime I see him on YouTube.
Yeah, he's a proper guy. It's another example. I'm not just going to talk about him. I'm going to talk about pretty much everybody involved. Anyone that came over from Chicago to the London game saw the passion of the fans over in London. The Bears fans internationally are top notch. We were up at 2:00 in the morning watching the Vikings game. Games finished at 5 a.m. We're going off to work an hour later and buzzed. I vividly remember staying up till 5:00 in the morning 4:00 in the morning to watch the Kansas City game where we were 43-0 down at halftime. So I stuck it out.
You stuck it out though, man.
Nice.
I'm a moron, but it's been absolutely brilliant having you on, Aldo. We must get you on again soon. Once the games start, we must get you on. And really appreciate your support and your very kind words, man. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate being on the show, and I'll be watching every episode of moving forward. And good luck with the Enterprise.
Cheers,
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That was not a Star Trek reference, by the way.
Don't worry. This is turning into a Star Trek episode. Don't worry.
Right, Aldo, I'm going to beam you up now, man. All right, have a good one.
Take care, fellas.
Cheers.
How cool was that?
Oh, that was fun.
That was great. That was absolutely great crack. And also, it seems like the followers of this show are Trekkies, and I'm being outnumbered by 1,000,000,000 to 1. So yeah, I'm done for that.
Oh hold on. It's a Star Wars reference here. We're not going to get
even worse.
Here,
Star Wars, Star Trek,
millions of people right there, and I'm just telling you.
So man, let's have a quick. We got around 8 minutes left. Anyone wants to throw a question to us, please do. But for me, what I found really interesting, the other one, the one about the stadium was brilliant because that's a take that I'd never seen before. Bellissimo is that far, but as is Buck Rogers, love it. For me, the stadium was an interesting one, and also his take on Noah Sewell, where he thinks Noah Sewell might be in danger of 53, which is where I thought Noah Sewell's performance yesterday solidified him in the 53. What's your take on Noah Sewell?
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy that when you took him, at one point in his career, obviously he had a lot of promise, and there was talk of him going a lot higher in previous drafts and all this kind of stuff. So when we got him, what was it, the 4th round maybe? Can't remember.
Fourth or fifth.
4th or 5th round, whatever it was. He thought, well, you know what, it's definitely worth a flyer because we know the potential that the guy has. We know, the skill set that he has there, and it's maybe just about trying to kind of bring that out. And obviously, last season didn't really get a lot of opportunities, but that strong side linebacker position is up for grabs just now. And he could be a guy that's in there. Also, you've got the likes of Hypolite, whatever the hell his name is. It sounds like some sort of fucking soda drink or something. But it's, one of those guys is probably going to be competing for that sort of position. So yeah, I mean, end of the day, I love the fact that these guys are coming out and making the best of the situation. We talked about Austin Booker last night. Everyone's going on about, the pass rush is a real problem. Where is the pass rush coming from? Because we haven't really seen as much as we would like to from Montez Sweat. And outside of that, there's not really much to get overly excited about. So it's great when you see people kind of stepping up and going, do you know what? I'm here still. Don't forget that. It'll be good to see when some of the starters get going. Sweat, how he contributes, and Dio Odobingo. Don't know if I pronounced that correctly. I do that every
Brilliant.
week.
Boom.
Was that spot on? Was it?
No idea.
No,
But that sounded cool. We're going with that.
Big Dio. Like, it'll be interesting to see, you know, the approach that they have as well, and if they have that, because you looked at Booker last night and he was just all over it, man. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of guys here though.
Can I interrupt you? Because Berlissimo makes my rant of the week, and I can't agree with him any more than this. Can Dazn fuck off with their excuse me audible adverts? No. Do you know what drove me fucking insane? I thought the scoreline was 14-7 at halftime. Yep. Because Dazn went off, and it's had the same fucking adverts over and over again. If I see the one of fucking Brady throwing an interception and they're like, poor me, and felt sorry for themselves. And then there was some other lad from the Ravens Hamilton, who destroyed some lad over and over again. Jesus Christ, sell some more adverts. It can't be difficult.
The two things that I took from that preseason game mostly are one, that Kyle Hamilton can play any position in the defensive back area because he's just all over the place. And two, Julian Edelman struggles to say words because he tried to say, we went out there and got absolutely pummeled. But what he actually said is, we went out there and got absolutely pummeled. Like, well, every time the advert came on, I'm like, fucking stop saying pummeled. It's pummeled, you fucking idiot.
And do you know what's worse? The same commentator for the game the Bears were on is the commentator in the advert for that being hit by Iman Hamilton. So maybe for the first 3 episodes, like, oh, they're back in the game as we missed the big hit. Fuck it. Yeah, also, Belismo wants you to have a go at this.
Kapasganong. I don't even know. I think I just summoned a demon there, to be honest with you. I do apologize.
Yeah, you brought someone from the dead side. So Dazn was the loser of the week. Definitely. I think anything to do with that. Like the next week better have exactly. What would Kyle Hamilton do? That's all I kept on hearing in my head when I was going to sleep. That's all I kept on hearing. I didn't want to know who Kyle Hamilton was.
That question. But you're right though, man. Like, I didn't even know that we scored a field goal at the end of the first half. Like,
I was just about to send a message to the Chicago Bears because they put up 14-10. I'm like, at least know the score, lads. Only I was about to hit send and I went, oh, we scored. I was like, what? Yeah, that was a bit of a shit one. There was other ones as well, little bits. Feel sorry, gotta put it out now. Feel sorry for the Miami Dolphins running back. Looks like he's a very, very serious injury. Yeah. Had to go for a neck operation in Chicago, which is never a good sign. He wasn't brought home or anything like that. So best wishes are going to him. And also there's some other big injuries coming around the place. We got to be hopeful that some of our injuries that we haven't heard about, the likes of Roshan Johnson and Kyler Gordon, that they don't turn into anything serious, especially Gordon, because we really can't. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing when it's about injuries, but this made me laugh. Cliffhanger. I have to wait until next week. Bernissimo, you're on fire, man. I can't wait to have you on the show. But no, I really am encouraged by this game. We said at the very start of the show how fun it was. It was a fun game to watch. I actually wanted him to win so badly at the end, which is kind of weird. I was desperate for them to win for some of their guys, and yeah, they went to Kayla's best mate, who I don't think will be on the team for much longer. Couldn't catch a cold, but yeah, it was a pretty cool experience watching the Bears back. It's great to have them there. Next week we have a crossover episode, Tony, with the three kings, the lads from the Three Kings and the Midway podcast, which I can't wait for, because it's the absolute opposites of types of podcasts that we do. So I'm absolutely delighted. We're delighted to have both of the lads on. Our three of the lads on. All three of them are on. Just the Dams is even coming on. So that's going to be some.
That's not next week. That's the week after.
Is it not next week? Who's next week?
NFC North crossover, did you say?
Oh, NFC North. That's it. We're doing it. I can't even remember my weeks or my days or my months. All over.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I'm totally wrong. I should cut this bit and put it in next week's show. Yeah, the next week we have the NFC North. The guys from the Bears. The Bears obviously host the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings. So that should be fun. Giving abuse to the Packers because that was some scoreline. Don't care if it's preseason or not. That was hilarious, and going to go see it. Actually, we got a minute, right? If you were to say right now after preseason one, go me the NFC North. Who were the top four?
Really, it's probably Lions. I'm going to go Bears. Then I'm going to go Vikings, and then I'm going to go Packers. And I don't know why.
You.
Well, realistically, Packers third, Vikings last. I don't know, man.
No, I don't. I think the Packers are going to absolutely drop off. I really do. I think there's a real issue there. So I'm going with, and I also think the Lions. I actually think it'll be Bears and Vikings. I really do. I think the Vikings defense is going to be really good, and they've got a really good defensive coordinator. They've made some really good moves, and that'll give space to JJ McCarthy just to survive. And even if they don't, they've got Aaron Jones there. They've got a really good offensive line. I really like the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to be a really good team. I think the Lions will drop back a little bit. I think the Bears will make the biggest jump. I think the Packers will fall off the edge. So I'm going to go myself with really tight. But I'm going to probably going to go Vikings, Bears, Lions, Packers. But I think those top three could switch in any direction. I think those three qualify for the playoffs.
Let's just make the playoffs and see what happens. Guys, thanks very much for joining us. Make sure to follow myself, follow the show, follow Ant, follow Aldo, follow the Barroom Network. And remember to join us next week where we actually have the NFC North crossover podcast and not the one that Ant was talking about. We're going to have someone from the Lions. We're going to have someone from the Vikings. We're going to have someone from the Packers. We're going to argue. We're going to have a fight verbally. It's going to be a great laugh. Make sure you're there. Get your comments in for the guys. Get your questions in for the opposition as well. And until we see you next time, remember to bear down and cheery bye.